Marvelous hello, friends and loved ones! Those of you that know me know that I love me some Pokémon, and I also really enjoy replaying these games with different challenges in mind. Whether I'm doing a Nuzlocke run, or a Gym Leader challenge, or whatever, I'm always looking for new ideas. I recently had an idea for a fun way to play through the original Pokémon Red version, which is a version I've actually never played until now. I was always a blue kid, who started with Charmander anyway. That was a whole thing. Anyway, today I'm going to be doing what I call a Pokémon Red version Red Pokémon Challenge. What does that mean exactly? It means I'm playing through Pokémon Red version using only Pokémon that are officially listed as red, or are at least considered red by Bulbapedia. That means no Pokémon even if they have prominent red body parts like Hitmonchan's boxing gloves or Spearow's wings, and no pink Pokémon that I try to convince myself are actually a light red like Porygon, even though annoyingly Porygon 2 is considered red. And just to keep things a little exciting, I will be adhering to the rule where if any Pokémon faints, I'm not allowed to use it anymore, and I can't just go catch another one of the same Pokémon. Can I make it through the original Red version using only a finite number of red Pokémon? Let's find out. So we boot the game up, and naturally I name myself Red and my rival Blue. No sense in messing with the classics there. I pick Charmander as my starter, and I've decided that I'll be nicknaming all of my Pokémon after things that are red. Which means right off the bat, I'm faced with one of the toughest decisions of this entire challenge run.
Ketchup? 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 Ketchup?
I deliver Oak's package, get the Pokédex, and make my way through Viridian Forest. There really isn't much going on right now since there aren't any other red Pokémon I can catch before the first gym. I just need to make sure Ketchup is a high enough level to take down Brock without too much trouble, which he can because this is Gen 1 Brock, where I really don't need to worry about rock moves, just bide. Hey, real quick, if you like what I'm doing, please consider subscribing, commenting, maybe even checking out the Patreon. It helps a lot. Thanks, let's move on. After the first gym, I'm finally able to add a few more red Pokémon to my party. So I get Ruby the Magikarp from this guy in the Pokémon Center, and snag Mario the Paras while exploring Mount Moon. I actually feel pretty good about going up against Misty with a water and grass type, even if they're hardly the best options out there for either type. In fact, I think they actually might be the worst options out there for either type, at least as far as Gen 1 is concerned. I'm able to train Ruby up to level 20, but unfortunately I can't let her evolve because Gyarados isn't red. Not until Gen 2 anyways. Alright, well, she's stuck as a Magikarp, but thankfully those tackles are good enough to take down Misty's Staryu, and Starmie's Psychic typing puts it at a major disadvantage to Mario's Leech Life. So I had to be careful, but I do claim my second badge. While working my way towards Vermilion City, Mario evolves into Parasect, and talk about a mega mushroom. But now I know I've got to get through the SS Anne before I can catch my next red Pokémon, so I fight all the trainers on board and slap Blue around a bit before getting the HM for Cut for Mario. Instead of going straight for the gym, I make my way back north and head east to the route before Rock Tunnel, where I snag myself a Voltorb that I named Cranberry. And then, yeah, I go beat Surge. Obviously Ruby is staying out of this gym, but with Cranberry and Mario, I don't really have anything particularly funny or noteworthy to talk about with this fight. I even got through that stupid garbage can puzzle without too much hassle. But now I've got to make my way through Rock Tunnel, which is way easier if you have Flash. Which I do not, because getting the HM for that requires having 10 Pokémon in your dex. Which I don't have, because my red-cladded team only gets me up to 6. So screw it, I ain't afraid of no stupid darkness, I'll cast Magic Missile. Who needs light? Who needs a fairly useful accuracy-lowering move for Cranberry? I can blindly grope my way around the dark, no problem. Actually, fun fact, when I was a kid playing this game for the first time, I did not know Flash existed, so this is exactly how I did it back then. It took me like 3 days. There's still no new red Pokémon to add to my team as I work my way through, but once I get out, I immediately head towards Celadon City, where along the way, Cranberry evolves into an Electrode, and I can finally make a new addition to my team. Unfortunately though, it's not Growlithe. As much as I considered making an exception for this Pokémon because, come on, if they say Charizard is red, I feel like Growlithe should be too, but no. He's considered brown. So, sorry little pupper. I would have named you Blood. I do, however, allow myself to grab the free Eevee, or Freevee if you will. While Eevee isn't red, I am allowing myself a loophole, where if a Pokemon can lead to me getting a red Pokemon, I can have it in my team, so long as it never enters battle. And it doesn't, until I use a Firestone on it and welcome Persona 5 the Flareon to my party. Gen 1 doesn't let you use numbers and nicknames, just go with it, okay? This is the best I could do. I figure the Rocket Hideout is a good place to train Persona 5 a bit, and because I appreciate the humor of that particular Pokemon running amok in the backrooms of a casino filled with wacky traps. And now it's time for the Celadon Gym. Once again, Ruby is staying out of this one. But with Ketchup and Persona 5 on fire duty, and Mario's Leech Life being super effective against grass and poison, because this is weird Gen 1 rules, yeah, Erica's no problem at all. And speaking of Bug being good against poison because of weird Gen 1 rules and things being no problem, Mario's Leech Life is also super effective against the Ghastly line. The Pokemon Tower can't take him down because he replenishes his life by devouring the souls of the dead. And then he also beats up that Marowak. As I head south and prepare to fight Snorlax, Ketchup evolves into Charizard, and it's at this moment I realize not a single Pokemon available to me in this challenge run can learn Fly. Because somebody can only learn Fly starting from Yellow version, and somebody doesn't count as being Red until they get a Galarian form 24 years later. So I just won't have Fly, I guess. Backtracking is gonna suck. Alright, and full disclosure, now that I'm past Snorlax and got the Super Rod, I can actually get every remaining red Pokemon in the game right now. Heck, 3 of them are available on this very route. So to make this all easier to understand, I'm just gonna quickly go over every new Pokemon I caught, what funny red thing I nicknamed them, and how much all of this ended up shuffling my party around. So with the Super Rod, I fished up a Goldeen that I named Hibiscus, but truthfully, I always expected her to be on backup duty, because I also caught a Pokemon that I really wanted to use, a Krabby that I named Strongbad. Silly Strongbad, how can you type with those big, meaty claws? Alright, and these next 2 Pokemon I caught are both gonna go back to that loophole that resulted in me getting Persona 5. Remember, I am allowing myself to catch things that directly leads to me getting a red Pokemon, so long as I never actually use the ineligible Pokemon in battle. That's the rule, right? So bear with me. So on that same route where I fished up my new water types, I also caught a Gloom, who counts as blue. But once it evolves with a Leaf Stone and the flower makes up the majority of its body, it switches to counting as red, so I was able to add Pizza Hut the Vileplume to my Pokedex. And this next Pokemon I'd gladly just catch myself if it were possible in this game, but it's not. So I go ahead and catch a Poliwhirl, and even though it's not red, I do nickname it Kool-Aid Man. Unlike Eevee and Gloom, Poliwhirl obviously doesn't evolve into a red Pokemon, but it can directly lead to me getting one, since now I can make my way back to Cerulean City where this guy is willing to trade me the only Jinx in the game. Now, unfortunately, because this is a traded Pokemon, I can't nickname it. It's always called Lola, which may be in reference to Jinx's original Japanese name, Rugella, which hilariously is already a reference to a reddish color. But here's the deal. I'ma call her Red Velvet, like the cake. So just pretend that's what it says on the screen, okay? So that's everybody. Sadly, because this is red version, I can't catch a Magmar, who I totally would have named Huey if anyone was wondering, but since it would have just been a third fire type, I'm really not all that broken up about it. Speaking of, let's take a look at our team, shall we? Now that I know Charizard can't learn Fly, I actually debated whether or not to keep Ketchup or Persona 5 as my main fire user. And call me a great big softie, but I've gotta go with my original partner here. Ketchup has been with me from the very beginning. I love Ketchup. I also decided to keep both Mario and Pizza Hut as grass types, with Mario focusing on his bug moves and Pizza Hut focusing on poison stuff. Unfortunately, within the confines of this challenge, neither of them naturally learn any grass moves, and I've only got the 1 Mega Drain TM from Erica. Still, I figure Pizza Hut will get more use out of it. Not that it matters too much, because Cranberry and Strongbad are more than capable of wiping out anything that grass is good against with electricity or water. And rounding out the team is Red Velvet. Ignoring Jinx's questionable Gen 1 design choices, Ice and Psychic are both just really good types to have around. So for those of you keeping track, that leaves Hibiscus and Persona 5 in the PC, and I decided to drop Ruby off at the daycare center. She did kinda save my butt against Misty after all, so I think she deserves a little pampering. Truthfully, when I first came up with the idea for this challenge, I expected a lot more fire types, so I'm pleasantly surprised that we've managed to put together a pretty well-balanced team, all things considered. So now I work my way down to Fuchsia City, evolving Strongbad into Kingler along the way. Or should I say, an on-point Kingler. And I take care of all these Safari Zone stuff, and since I don't have Fly, I don't want to have to come back here, I decided to just wipe out the gym while I'm in the neighborhood. After taking down Koga, thanks to Red Velvet Psychic attacks, I make my way to Saffron City, and easily take down the Fighting Dojo, thanks to Red Velvet Psychic attacks. I know some of you may be too young to remember this, but Psychic was really overpowered in the early Pokemon games, both as a move and a type. And then, yeah, Silphco. I know you can clear this dungeon pretty quickly, but I always try to go through everything and get as much experience as I can, but there's not really anything engaging or interesting to talk about with it. I beat Blue. I beat Giovanni. I'm not going to use this Master Ball, so let's just go fight Sabrina. Truthfully, her Alakazam could have easily killed Ketchup, but since Psywave is a super stupid move that only did 1 damage, I was able to achieve victory. And that means my next stop is Cinnabar Island, which involves quite a bit of backtracking when you don't have anyone that can fly. Since I knew this was the Fire Gym, I decided to train Hibiscus a bit and have her evolve into a Sea King. It wouldn't hurt to have her just in case something bad happens to Strongbad, but it's also just so I can say that I did get every red Pokemon available in this game. I end up really sucking at the super hard trivia questions and fight my way through the trainers in Blaine's gym. And I still maintain that Tombstoner should be a real move name, because that sounds awesome. And I fight the genius gym leader of the Kanto region, Blaine, who proceeds to use 2 super potions on his at full health Rapidash.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
And that means there's only one gym leader left, Giovanni. And look, I've got water, grass, and ice types in my team. I can't even really think of anything funny to say here. I just kinda kick his butt. Honestly, it was a pretty underwhelming final gym leader, all things considered. After that, I make my way through Victory Road, which goes fine. Originally, I planned on doing some training here to help prepare for the Elite Four, but you know what? I've got 2 reasons why I'm not doing that. 1, because I forgot that in this game, Victory Road is full of level 26 Geodudes who don't give experience for crap, and 2, because I said I was going by permadeath rules, and we haven't lost a single Pokémon yet. So let's actually roll those dice and try to take on the Elite Four with just what I've got now. Lorelei isn't too bad because most of her Pokemon are part water, so Cranberry can take them down, though I did have a little bit of a scare because I keep forgetting that Gen 1 was super broken, and Ketchup doesn't take neutral damage from Jinx's Ice Punch. Bruno is an absolute joke. Turns out when your team isn't almost entirely weak against fighting types, he's really not that bad. For this bit to make any sense, you gotta go check out my Pokemon Perfect Crystal video. Wink wink. Agatha doesn't really fare much better, and even Mario gets to help out a bit by putting her Gengar to sleep with Spore. I remember I didn't want to waste all of Red Velvet Psychics on this fight, so I had a few other people step in, like letting Cranberry take down Golbat. Overall, still feeling pretty good despite being mostly underleveled. Lance ends up giving me a little bit of trouble, but it's nothing I can't handle. Red Velvet got lucky with a critical hit on Dragonite, and Strongbad took down this long dragon with a beefy arm coming out of the back of its neck. But now that means there's just one fight left. It's time for the ultimate showdown of Red versus Blue. First, Cranberry takes down Pidgeot thanks to a back-to-back Thunderbolt, and because Gen 1 AI is terrible and Whirlwind didn't do anything in trainer battles back then. Then I send Mario out against Alakazam. I mean, Psychic types are why I wanted to keep a Bug type around. Psybeam does a lot of damage, and I'm super thankful he didn't use Psychic. I'm hoping I could just use Spore to keep it asleep and keep Mario's health up with Leech Life. I push my luck, but again, thankfully Alakazam uses Reflect instead of attacking, so I just repeat the steps a few more times, and Yeah, I've got to be honest, I really thought Mario was going to die here. It's weird that he didn't. Rhydon? Pfft, who cares? Mega Drain, failed Horn Drill, second Mega Drain. I forgot that I didn't even need to worry about that Horn Drill maybe hitting me, since this is Gen 1, where it always fails if your opponent is faster than you. Strong Bad defeats Arcanine in what is basically a bigger version of him fighting Blaine like an hour and a half ago, so no real worries there. Then I decide to push Mario's luck a second time against Exeggutor, and yeah, it works again. Spore to put it to sleep, and then Leech Life, which is a weak move, but 4 times damage is 4 times damage. By the time Exeggutor woke up, it was too late. Seriously, let me know in the comments, are you as surprised that I am that Mario is still alive? And that means the only Pokemon left in our way is Blue's trump card, his Blastoise. I decide to send in Pizza Hut to poison him with Toxic before I realize that this thing has Blizzard and tries to use it to out-pizza the Hut. But guess what, Blastoise? No one out-pizzas the Hut. I get the poison off and swap out to Cranberry, who gets frozen solid from another Blizzard, but after thawing them out, I use its last Thunderbolt, and the battle is over. I won. We won. My team of lovable red scrappers somehow made it. Ketchup, Mario, Cranberry, Strong Bad, Pizza Hut, Red Velvet. We're Pokemon League champions. And we didn't lose any of our friends along the way. Not even Mario, because let's be real, he was the most likely to eat it. So yeah, it turns out that a Pokemon Red version, Red Pokemon Challenge, isn't really all that challenging. You can wind up with a pretty varied team with a lot of type coverage, and so long as you remember some of the weird rules of Gen 1, it's not that tricky of a run to pull off. But overall, I still had a lot of fun with it, and I'm glad I did this little challenge. I love trying out these different types of runs in Pokemon games, so if you've got any ideas for one, please feel free to make a suggestion in the comments. Thanks again for joining me on another Pokemon adventure, and oh, wait a minute, what about Ruby? Okay, cool, she's doing fine. Alright, see you next time.